Welcome back to the Central Hours podcast. Today I'm joined by Wrexham fan Tommy as we look ahead to Saturday's fixture. I imagine most people want to pick up the Wrexham story in the Reynolds and McAnally era and the success of recent years, but I want to take it back a little bit beyond this. 20 years ago or so, you had a lot of off the field issues, were placed into administration, and also suffered a 10-point deduction. What was it like supporting Wrexham prior to this takeover?
Yeah, well, I mean, for a start, thank you very much for talking about Wrexham before the takeover. I'm so used to talking about the FC Hollywood, as everyone calls us, but no, to be honest, it was a real roller coaster ride, and I've got to be completely honest and say there was probably more downs. In fact, there definitely was more downs than ups. But to be honest, with everything that's gone on in recent years, it just makes it all the sweeter. It was always a rough ride with Wrexham. I mean, I've seen Wrexham play QPR many times. We've been in the same league. You went on to big things. We went lower. We were in League One together when I first started watching Wrexham. And then obviously went on to Premier League glory, didn't you? But yeah, certainly as a Wrexham fan, we've had two. Most clubs have at least one set of poor owners or bad owners. We had two sets of owners, and the fact that we've, as a club, lived to tell the tale is unbelievable, Dan, to be honest. So yeah, it's been a rough ride, but whilst we get a lot of stick, and I completely get it, I would be the same. I'd be calling us FC Hollywood and every name under the sun.
Yeah.
As a Wrexham fan, mate, I've got to stick my chest out and say I think we deserve it because we've been to hell and back.
Yeah, I think we've all seen, obviously, the stories that have come out over the years. Um, Obviously, how does this contrast to, obviously, now with the new owners?
Yeah, I mean, obviously our fan base. I've always said that's been the biggest thing is getting the fans interested again. I've always said we've had probably a bit like yourselves, actually, in many ways, a big dormant fan base in terms of it's always there, it's always been there, but in terms of match going fans, everyone knows we were down to 4,000 was our average gate for a long time. But that's been the biggest thing. Is just across North Wales. I mean, there's coaches that come down the A55 from Holyhead, from Anglesey, 65, 70, 80 miles away every Saturday. Now that used to happen in the 70s and 80s, but there was a lost generation in terms of fan base. But do you know what? It goes beyond that, actually, Dan. I would say just in terms of the knock-on effect, in terms of local businesses doing well, smiles on faces, as cheesy as it sounds, it's absolutely just changed North East Wales much for the better. And listen, Rob and Ryan will never have to buy a drink ever again in North Wales, as far as I'm concerned.
Did you believe the rumours when they started swirling around in the press, or did you think, it wouldn't happen to Wrexham?
Well, to be honest, yeah, I mean, we've always had this thing, we'll Wrexham it up, but they will always find a way of ruining it. And there was a vote as well in terms of, fans had to vote. We were obviously fans, supporters trust owned. And because of having horrendous owners who've, wanted to knock down the racecourse and build a B&Q on it, we were a little bit sceptical. There was always going to be skeptics. And, as soon as we heard the names, we thought, well, these guys have got nothing to lose. They're not going to come in and try and make a quick buck. They're not, sort of property developers or anything like that. So as soon as we heard who it was, I think it was a landslide. I think it was something like 99% voted in favour. But, to go back to your question, people were sort of trying to put two and two together. People were coming up with, well, Russell Crowe had family from near Wrexham in Pennakai and stuff like that. So you're sort of thinking, is there links there? Someone mentioned Ryan Giggs, which was a really crazy one. I mean, we dodged the bullet if that was going to be the case. But yeah, it was when we heard the names, I was a massive fan beforehand of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I was more excited about him than Ryan Reynolds. But yeah, honestly, mate, it was. And there was actually a Zoom call which Supporters Trust members were allowed to join. That was pretty much the most surreal thing I think I've ever encountered in my entire life, a Zoom call with Ryan Reynolds. I think the Deadpool film had just come out as well. So crazy times, mate. But honestly, Dan, still pinching myself now, mate. It still doesn't feel real. Playing clubs like yourselves, but we've just come off the back of a 5-win Obviously, the last couple of games haven't been great for us, but we've come off the back of a 5-game winning streak. Every single one of those teams were ex-English top division champions. So it just goes to show the crazy ride that we've been on, really.
Yeah, like you mentioned as well, the takeover journey, but also looking on the pitch as well. When Ryan and Rob took over the National League side, probably wondering, could they get you up, or would it be like another Salford mission? But now you're in the Championship. Will you go up? Maybe.
Listen, I hate that question, Dad. I knew it was going to come. It's for me. Start the season, I said, let's just stay in the Championship. Let's stay up this season. We've got to be realistic and say that's pretty much job done now. Especially if some of the signings rumoured to come in are going to come in as well. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to. You dare to dream as a fan, because what's the point in football without dreaming, right? But yeah, at the same time, mate, can we go up and will we go up are two different things. I don't think we will. But Phil Parkey, mate, he should have a statue. He's already a legend in this town, and he's just done an incredible job. People say he's got money. It's fair. It's a fair comment, but you're right to mention Salford. You're talking about 5, 6, 7 guys involved in Salford with massive football experience, and they can't get out of League Two with pretty much unlimited funds as well. So, for 2 guys from the other side of the pond to come over, you've got to say massive, massive respect, because as they'd say themselves, they're not football experts, but they've already leapfrogged the so-called experts in Salford. So I think it's a really good analogy to bring them into it, mate. And, thank you for the respectful manner in this interview's going as well, because most people just throw shit at us. So yeah, thank you.
No worries at all. Looking now towards the documentary side, I know, like with the Salford one, there was a bit of maybe backlash from opposition sides. What have you made to sort of other fans' viewpoints on Wrexham because of everything that's gone on?
Well, listen, to me, I suppose the big one is, I sort of expected the usual suspects. We're in an area of North Wales is right on the border, and our big rivals are across the border. So Chester are playing against the Dog and Duck these days, but Shrewsbury, who soon will be playing the Dog and Duck, Stockport, the likes of that, those Tranmere Rovers, those were our rivals. But the surprising thing for me, the biggest, and I'm going to use the word jealousy and hatred, has come from within Wales, Cardiff and Swansea, and Newport as well, I've got to say. I go to every Wales home game. I go to the odd away game, and the way their attitude has changed to Wrexham, it's gone from Cardiff and Swansea fans almost patting you on the head, condescending, saying, "Oh, we hope you get out of National League." Now they absolutely despise us. And do you know what, Dan? I wouldn't change it for the world. I would hate to go back to, people patting you on the head and just saying, "Oh, I hope Wrexham get out of non-league." Give me this all day long. So bring on the hatred, as far as I'm concerned. Hatred's a strong word. I don't think it's hatred, but I think, there's a lot of people as well who've sort of said to me, friends who support other clubs, who've said, listen, a lot of it's jealousy. Anyone would love the owners that we've got in charge now, because, as I say, it's not just the finance, it's what they've done, and they've galvanised the community and pretty much half a country, Dan. It's incredible. So, I think there's a jealousy aspect, but as far as I'm concerned, I'd much rather everyone hates us than everyone sort of feels sorry for us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, there's been a lot of signs as well who have been crucial on this run. Which ones do you in particular pinpoint as being the ones who have helped you climb that table the most?
Sorry, mate, just players-wise, are you talking now?
Yeah, players who have been crucial on the run.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the National League days, Elliot Lee and Paul Mullin, probably Ollie Palmer third in terms of his role there as well, but certainly Paul Mullin for the early years of past the takeover, he was just an absolute legend. He is a legend. I think he's got a couple of. Well, he's definitely got one mural in Wrexham. He's probably going to have a second, third one. He's an absolute god, and we haven't really had those sort of icons at Wrexham since the 90s. We were a club that players would come and go, as is the nature of football. But certainly since the takeover, Paul Mullin, I think in more recent times, James McLean is loved. He's hated everywhere else, obviously, as we know. Leicester fans weren't too keen on him the other night, but I think James McLean, I think Ben Tozer in the early years. This season, I think Kiefer Moore, I think Ben Sheaf's been fantastic, Dom Hyam. But, I mean, the man is Paul Parker. Paul Parker, he was an ex-QPR player. Phil Parkinson has been absolutely instrumental. And, everyone throws disrespect at him. And no one sits back and says, forget about the money for a second. He built 2, maybe even 3 teams in his 5 years at the club. And that is not easy to do. In the summer, he ripped it all up. He built a new team. Yes, he had the money to do it. But you've got to sort of gel them all together. Look at the top managers. It's only really Alex Ferguson in the UK who's been able to do that. So, massive respect to Parky. He's been the main man for me. But you know what, Dan, I've got to say, a couple of my friends included, he still gets a little bit of respect from our own supporters. Disrespect, I should say. People, sometimes the style of play isn't the most attractive on the eye. But for me, the man can do no wrong. And he's another one who should never have to buy a drink in Wrexham ever again.
I mean, it's quite surprising to hear, considering where he took over to where you are now. It's your first season back in the Championship, which hasn't seen this automatic promotion as some Wrexham fans may have expected. Which teams have impressed you in particular?
Well, the really funny thing is like I think the Championship this year has been absolutely incredible. I've got friends who support Cardiff and Swansea who told me all about the Championship and just how crazy a league it is. Obviously, you guys know all about that. What surprised me is I was really impressed with West Brom earlier this season. I've got to say this, and I wouldn't say it unless I genuinely meant it. I was impressed by QPR. I think you came to the racecourse. You really did a number on us. You sort of sat back and really killed us on the break. We were quite naive that day, I think, but impressed by QPR. But West Brom are really struggling down the bottom, but they looked a really good side. Again, it's another team that you wouldn't expect. Swansea played well against us down there. We were dreadful that night. And that was a horrible night. Let me tell you, as a Welshman, hearing they call us Scousers as well, which is really, really irritating. So yeah, fuck Swansea. Sorry, I'm allowed to swear. It's been really strange, but I think it hits home. And on the flip side, I've had to say, Dan, Coventry came to the racecourse, and I wasn't impressed by them at all. So that's the nature of the Championship, mate. I think, it literally is, and it's a massive cliche. Any team can beat anyone. And I even include Sheffield Wednesday. They got a draw at the racecourse as well. So we're sort of better against the better sides. So it's going to be a really interesting one. We went to Millwall. Obviously, we've got a decent record in London. We went to Millwall and won. I'm hoping for the same score this weekend, obviously. I'm sure you're hoping. Well, you are hoping for the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think, like you mentioned, QPR on that day, I think it was more being clinical. I think you saw with players like Burrell, who won't be available Saturday, unfortunately. But I think he would have had a massive impact. Is there any other QPR players that, in particular, you're wary of?
Yeah, he was the one really for me. Yeah, to be honest. I have to be the first to admit I haven't seen any of QPR other than that game at the racecourse this season. But you alluded to it there, just clinical. But I watched the way QPR played, and you were so comfortable. Just I wouldn't say we had a lot of pressure, but we had a fair bit of the ball. But you were so comfortable, and you broke with such pace. And I was genuinely really impressed. What was weird was for us, from our point of view, is that. After Okonkwo, who's been absolutely brilliant, apart from that one against Swansea, he was slow to come out for that second goal.
Yeah.
That killed us really. But Okonkwo's another one who's been instrumental for us. But yeah, going back to you, that was a day in which I thought we could be in a bit of trouble this season, because I just watched the way you play and how clinical you were, and I thought we'd still look a little bit naive at this point. Thankfully, we've overcome that now, and I think you guys will probably see a little bit of a different side, with us when we come down there on Saturday.
Yeah. How's Wrexham's away record been this season?
It's been up and down. It really has. A bit like start of the season, Dan. We were struggling at home, and then that's flipped on its head. We're quite strong at home now. Obviously, we lost to Norwich last Saturday, which was a really good one. Yet another example of Wrexham struggling against the lower sides. But yeah, we've got some good results on the road. Norwich away was a brilliant result. Millwall, brilliant result as well. Got a draw at Preston. So we've done pretty well. I think Derby is another one I should have mentioned as well. That was a really good performance there. Got a draw at Middlesbrough as well. So against the better sides, of which I genuinely think you're one of them. I think we're quite sort of level pegging at the moment, ourselves and you. So it really is. It's a real toss of a coin on Saturday, Dan, I think.
Yeah, finally. What's your score prediction?
Oh Christ! I'm going to say the old favourite. I don't make predictions, and I never will. But no, I will give you a prediction. Yeah, I'm going to say a draw, mate. Every time Wrexham play away, I'm over the moon with a draw, and that's just the nature of the league. You're a club that not too long ago, you had a lot of money to spend and stuff like that, but you're an established Premier League side. I just look at it. I know we're in the here and now and times change, etc., etc. But for me, mate, going to a side like yourself, first visit to Loftus Road as well, which really looking forward to. I'd be over the moon with a 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1, mate. I think.
A big thank you to Tommy for hopping on. Let us know your score predictions below.